name is Jasmine Arrington, and I'm a first-year medical student. Okay. So the word that sums up my journey in medical school life story is definitely the word grace, specifically God's grace. I feel like I haven't necessarily been the person that's number one or where everything comes easy, but through the process, through applying to medical school, to college, whatever it is, I've always been able to make it to the next level. And even when I didn't think what I did was enough, I've always been given grace, and other people have thought that what I've done is enough. So I feel like in terms of getting into this process and going to medical school, it really isn't just on what you think, it's what other people think. And so I just appreciate the grace that I've received and making it even when I think I fall short. So my journey to medical school actually started really early. It started in high school. I had an amazing science teacher, and I was always going to her after class asking for more information or trying to learn things, going above and beyond what we were doing in class. And she said I should do this summer research program. So I'd never heard of research, didn't know it was a thing you can do in high school, but she got me plugged into a program at the University of Chicago, and I started doing research, and I did 5 years of research. I got publications as a high school student, as a college student, and that was something that really plugged me into a pipeline. So I was surrounded by mentors, people who were MD, PhDs, MDs doing research. So I felt that I was really nurtured, and I had all of the tools that I needed in terms of information, best practices, resources, and that support is what really guided me. So I'm the first person in my family to go to medical school, so my parents may not necessarily know, but I was definitely nurtured by an environment of people who were there to guide me on that and support me. So I ended up taking 2 gap years after I graduated from undergrad. When I was in undergrad, there was a point where I was really questioning my confidence of if I had what it took to be a medical student, if I would be successful. And so I started exploring other avenues. So what if I got a Master of Public Health and did some kind of community health work? Or what if I got a PhD and studied health in a different way in terms of how to help people or did research? And ultimately what I found was nothing would fulfill me, and I think use the gifts and the skills that I have as being a doctor. And so I ended up not finishing all my pre-medical coursework in undergrad, so I took 2 years off to finish my coursework, take the MCAT, and I also ended up working for a nonprofit, which was a huge learning experience for me in terms of how to be a person in the world, how to work with teams, and also helping me to grow as a person and be accountable for work, different things like that. So it was a really awesome experience, and I also got to travel and just explore who I am outside of being a student. So for me, being a Black woman in medicine is about more than just being a healthcare provider. It's really about being a representation for people who need healthcare. The majority of doctors are not African American, and so I want to be one of those people that can offer that culturally competent care, and I think it's important to take my life experience and my perspective and being able to deliver better care for that, because I know that not everybody has those skills. It also means being a representative, right? Because when you're in a position of power or in a position that has some kind of positive connotation, you're then going to be seen by others as a representation. And so I just want to be a woman in medicine for other young women in medicine to be inspired and recognize that, hey, there are people here. If you don't see it, you don't necessarily know if you can do it. So I think it's also important to be a figure in that regard. In terms of my medical school journey, some of it has been what I thought it would be, but there have also been a lot of new experiences I didn't quite expect. I knew that medical school would be overwhelming. I knew it would be a lot of information, a fast pace. I also knew that it would be an opportunity to work with people, which honestly is something that I love the most about my experience so far. I love the clinical experience because I think it takes the book work and the biochemistry and all the foundational knowledge you're learning and it puts it into context, because at the end of the day, I'm motivated by seeing patients, because I know that whatever I'm learning now in these books, even though I'm studying long hours and maybe not doing what I want to for fun and accruing hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, I still recognize that I need to know this information so that I can save a life and so I don't do harm. And I think that's what really motivates me through the medical school curriculum. Some things that I didn't necessarily expect was the atmosphere. So as a medical student, I'm the kind of person who is very open-minded. I like to consider myself well-rounded in terms of my perspective and how I approach problems and how I work with people, but I've found that not everybody has that same kind of openness or that same kind of desire to learn about people and things that are different from their experience. So I think it has been challenging to recognize the reality that even though we are a new generation, this millennial generation that's supposed to be more woke, it doesn't mean that there's going to be an automatic change in the medical profession in terms of who's offering care. There's still going to be people who are not going to be able to connect with their patients for XYZ reasons. And so I really got that realization through a lot of the teamwork involved in the medical school learning process. Some challenges for medical school: definitely learning how to learn. You're an undergrad and it's all cute and everything. If you want to cram for a test, you can. You can still make an A, like that's great. Medical school doesn't work like that. You have to figure out not only how to learn for you, it switches from class to class. The material is going to be different, but you have to learn how to study efficiently. So I think that's one of the challenges, is figuring out for what you're learning, how do you do it quickly, efficiently, and also how do you retain it? Because this information, you're not just learning it for a test, you're learning it for the rest of your life and for the lives of the people you're going to be saving. So definitely the biggest challenge for me, and even time management, because you want to make sure that you eat, you sleep, work out, all these things that keep you healthy and allow you to be a person. So time management and learning how to learn. Victories. I would have to say one of my victories has been learning from the past. So every time I have an exam, the material is going to be different, the exam is going to be different, and each exam I've been able to do better and better and better. And so I think that's a victory in the sense that I'm not being complacent with being where I am. I'm always striving to do better. And so every test I tell myself, I want to be AOA, I want to be the top of my class. I may never be the top 4%, but I'm making sure that I'm working hard as if I will be. And I think having that kind of drive and having that motivation and hopefully confidence, hopefully I'll begin to believe my own hype. But I think it's important to not settle with average or not settle for the minimum pass level. You want to make sure, yeah, if you pass, you're fine, because I happen to go to a pass-fail school. But I don't want to say that that's okay. I always want to push myself and expect more because I recognize that I have the ability. So I think that's been a victory, and one that I'm excited to continue to pursue throughout my medical education. My dreams and goals are lofty, so I'm going to put them out there, but I recognize it's a lot. So ultimately I want my MD and PH, and with that I want to do health disparities work. I want to make sure that I'm bridging the gaps in health disparities, not just on a hospital institutional level, but a state and national level. So in my mind, I want the first phase of my career to be clinical work and doing community-based participatory research in underserved Black and Brown communities, where I'm meeting with people in the community, I'm talking to my patients, I'm figuring out what their barriers to care are, I'm figuring out how institutions are interfacing with those barriers to care. And after I get that information, I want to go into communities and I want to do some kind of consulting work where I'm working with different sectors of society, be it, the alderman's office or schools or social services, to make sure that I can help shore up those barriers to care, because health is not just about going to the doctor and getting medicine. It's about, do you have access to food in your neighborhoods? Do you have sidewalks? Do you feel safe? There are just so many things that go into it. So I pretty much want to be a bridge to bring people, society together and say, hey, we all have a stake in this. How can we all meet our mutual goals? By working together and making sure that we're connecting people in need with these resources that'll ultimately enhance their health overall. And so once I do that, I want to do research with that so that I have evidence to shore up my methods or things that I've learned that can be applied to policy. Because what happens is you have these lawmakers, but they're not doctors, or they're not in health at all. So they don't understand how maybe they're making a law about insurance or maybe hospital policy, and it's really hurting people. So I want to be the authority that says, hey, I've done the research, I've talked to the people, I've shown that this actually works. If you're going to write a policy, you need to insert XYZ, or you need to take that out. So I think ultimately I want to be a person to enact institutional change on a grander kind of level, hopefully nationally, and be a consultant in that way. What keeps me personally going is my faith in God, and just knowing that I tried to explore the paths and he still put me on this one, and just trusting in his plan and knowing that if I was put on this path, it's for a reason. And so I really do claim success. I have no doubts about that. And it really just moves me to put my all into this path. Even if I need to take more time. Some people go straight through. I didn't. I need to take more time, and that was okay because I was committed to this goal. So the other thing I think is really important in this process, if you're a high school student, college student, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough or that your GPA is too low. There are so many options. There are post-bac programs. You can retake classes. You can take classes over the summer. You can do research. You can get a master's degree in physiology or something. There's so many things that you can do. If anybody tells you that you can't do something, just put that out of your mind. If you have a mind to do something, it may not be the easy route. You may have to try more than once. And honestly, you may fail. Failing is okay. It's what you do after you fail. Do you get up? Do you try again? Because learning is something that's a process and you grow in that. So if you get to the point where you can be successful, go for it. Don't let other people tell you you can't because they don't like where you are at in a snapshot in time. If I was an organ, I would be the liver. Why? Because I just want to make sure everybody's okay. I just filter out all the toxins, give you, some coagulation factors if you're, get a cut or something. I'm just such a motherly kind of person. I always want to make sure people are okay. So I think, the liver, make sure you're okay. So yeah, I'd be the liver.